Let's take a look at how to work with still images in the context of a video environment. I first just want to discuss a couple of still image related preferences. So I'm going to come up to Premiere Pro, and then Preferences, and then Timeline. This is in the Edit menu on a PC. And I want to look at still image default duration. Mine is set at 5 seconds. Yours might say 5 seconds or 150 frames. But basically, this is the starting off point of how long your stills are if you don't first set in and out points. This doesn't matter too much because when you're working with stills, you can always set those in and out points, or you can trim them longer or shorter in the timeline. But again, this is how long they are by default. Okay, so I'm going to open up my images bin, and I'm actually going to just double click on my images bin to give myself a little more room. I'm in list view. If yours opens up in icon view, just go to list view. And I'm going to press tilde to maximize. And I want to bring up a very specific column of information. So I'm going to right-click up here on my header and choose Metadata Display, and then twirl down Premiere Pro Project Metadata, and I want Video Info. So I'll say OK. And here we see the resolution of our still images. As you can see, I've got quite a few different sizes and shapes here. Many of the photographs have a very high resolution, whereas some are video resolution, all right? So the high-res photos were probably taken with a camera, and the video resolution stills were probably exported as stills from a video environment. All right, so keep all of this in mind as we start talking about image resolution versus video resolution. I'm going to press tilde again to minimize, and let's create a sequence. Now, as we've learned, Premiere Pro sets up your sequence settings by the first clip that you drop in the timeline. So one tip I have is that instead of leading with one of your still images, which might have a very large resolution, instead just drop in a representative video clip into the timeline to sort of lock in your sequence settings. And then when you put stills in after that, everything will already be set up. By a representative video clip, I just mean a video clip that matches most of what your footage is. Here I have one of those. It's just one of Esther's interviews. So I'll just drag and drop, and I'm just going to rename this Stills Practice, all right? And now, even if I delete my video clip, I've locked in my video settings. If I come up to Sequence and then Sequence Settings, you can see that I have my video settings all locked in. All right, so let's edit some stills into our sequence. I'm going to go back over to my Images bin, and I want to make sure that I can see my video info right here. So we'll drag that over. Okay, so let's start editing a few different sizes of images into our sequence. I'm going to start with something that actually matches our video resolution. So I'm going to grab one of these 1920 by 1080 images, and I'll drag it over. Again, we start with our 5-second duration, but I can trim that out or in as needed. And because this image's resolution is equal to my video resolution, I see the entire image. If I double-click on my image, you can see that I have a blue wireframe directly surrounding the video frame. All right, so we see the entire thing. But now if I come to this image, for example, 8,160 pixels by 1,731 pixels, I'll drag that in. This is actually showing us a very small portion of the image. Again, our sequence is at 1920 by 1080, and this photograph is much larger than that. That's a really good thing because I can zoom into this still without losing resolution. This right now is extremely zoomed in. I'm going to just select the image, and then if we want to see what the entire image looks like in terms of its size, I'm going to change this from fit to a fairly low number. I'll try 25%. And now if I double-click, you can see that I see the blue wireframe that represents how large this image actually is. I'm going to have to go to 10% to actually see the whole thing. So now if I like, I can look at another part of this image. I can resize. So if I take one of the edges here, I can resize to a new composition. If I want to take a look at the entire image within my video frame, I can do that from the timeline. So I'm going to go back to Fit, and then I'm going to right-click and then choose Set to Frame Size. Not Scale to Frame Size, but Set to Frame Size. And this allows us to have access to all of the pixels in the image. Now, I had dragged this around a little bit, so I'm just going to reset my position. I'll go to Effect Controls, and then under Motion, if that's twirled up, just twirl that down. Under Position, I'm just going to reset. By the way, if you ever did want to reset your scaling as well and get it back to the way it was, you can just click on Scale, Reset, and we're back to 100% scaling, but ultra zoomed in. I'm going to go back to set to frame size. All right, so we have an image that is equal to video resolution. We have an image that is much larger than video resolution. Now I want to bring in an image that is smaller than video resolution. So this one right here, Oven Fire 2, I'll bring that one in. And it's hard to see, but I'll double click on it so you can see the blue wireframe. So we have a 1479 pixel by 903 pixel in our 1920 by 1080 video frame. If I like, I can set to frame size and it will scale it up. I can even scale it more than that. So if I give myself a little off-screen area here, 25%, I can scale here. You can come over to Effect Controls and scale here or reposition. But when you're dealing with images that are lower than video resolution or equal to video resolution, you do have to be careful. If you scale up too much, things are going to get very soft and pixelated very quickly. I'll go ahead and reset my position and scaling on this one. Now, I just want to mention one last thing. Many of these images are shaped differently than our 16:9 aspect ratio of video, okay? So the shape of the video frame does not necessarily equal the shape of our photograph. And to prevent the photograph from stretching and squeezing out of shape, Premiere Pro puts these letter boxes to maintain aspect ratio. If it was up and down, those are called pillar boxes. However, this isn't exactly black. This is transparent. So if I come back to my video clip, we'll put that in the timeline, all right? And let's say that, Esther is talking about bread and we would like to see this display of bread as B-roll over her talking. So if I just drag this on top, you see what I mean, all right? So this is not black, this is transparent. When we use it as B-roll, this isn't going to work. So I could certainly scale it up, and you can see that solves the issue. But if it's important for me to see the entire image, this isn't going to work. Let me set to frame size once again, and I'm going to bring this up to V3. And what we need to do is actually place something black in between our image and our video. So I'm going to come to New Item and Color Matte. It automatically matches it to my video settings, so I'll say OK. And you can pick a color, all right? So in this case, I do want black, so we'll say OK here. All right, and we'll go ahead and drag it over and place it on V2. And as you can see, we've solved our problem. We're no longer looking through a transparent alpha channel. We have our black background. All right, so working with stills is a little bit like working with regular video, but there are definitely some additional considerations you need to be aware of.